man, the word is just so cool and so deep and just so profound. And God is so much in the details. And it's just incredible what God does through his word. And when you start to dig in and study this, how much cool stuff that you actually find if you spend some time to dig deep. It's late, but I just have been studying the word some more and found something really, really cool. And I just wanted to share with you guys this hidden gem I found. So I'm in 1 Samuel, and it's where I'm at in my Bible reading. And in light of the period of the judges and all that God has done in this era to just reverse Israel's dark history, and God moves in an unexpected way through a Moabite woman named Ruth and gets rid of and reverses Israel's deep-seated idolatry. And if you didn't watch my video on that, go back and watch the video I just did on Ruth, and it's amazing. So we get into this new chapter, and God makes more movement to transition Israel's chaos back into order through this first chapter of 1 Samuel, but it's rough. And we see a divided house. We see painful evil against Hannah. We see the high priest unable to discern between drunkenness and genuine prayer. We see a woman who's deeply bitter and cries out to God in desperation. And we just see so much stuff going on in this chapter. This chapter just feels very broken and spiritually dry, and you can just tell how low Israel has fallen. But God, lo and behold, is up to something, and he's beginning that process of spiritual restoration of his people, and he does so through a barren woman named Hannah. So Hannah cries out to God and promises that if he gives her a son, she will dedicate him back to God, and that he will serve him all the days of his life and dedicate him back to him. And so a lot of people ask God for things, but not many ask and then promise to give those things back to God if they get them. And so we get to verse 19, and we see an interesting phrase about Hannah. It says, Yahweh remembered her. And that might sound weird because you may not know how God could forget someone, but actually in Hebrew thought, in those days, this wasn't something that you say like, hey, I lost my keys and then I remembered where they were and I found them. This was covenantal language that God was moving toward covenant action with Hannah. And so Hannah conceives and gives birth to a son, and she names him Samuel. And so what's the deal with Samuel? Why is that name so significant? Well, because the name actually means heard of God. And so think of the spiritual state of Israel that they're in right now. God gives the reader a glimpse of that through Hannah. You know, she was physically barren, and Israel was spiritually barren. And not only was Israel spiritually barren, but they were not listening to God. So God uses a barren woman to birth Samuel, who would eventually operate as in priestly and prophetic roles later on. But Israel was not just spiritually barren. They couldn't hear God's voice. And as we see in chapter 3 of 1 Samuel, where it says that the word from Yahweh was rare in those days and visions were infrequent. And so God uses Samuel, which means heard of God, to reverse the cycle of spiritual silence that Israel was experiencing.